start over. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. So these are some research papers.
Hey guys, please another 40 minutes, 45 minutes, and then you're all free people again. Until then, certainly not. So good, that worked. All right.
This is some examples of research papers that we're going through. And we're just going to go quickly through the two ones that are posted on GitLab. The first one is a detailed industry analysis as well as recommendations for the future, where it's a kind of a market analysis. He's been interviewing 17 simulation companies, testing a range of full demo games. So this paper is really good in general because it has a lot of good references, especially in the chapter 2.1, the benefits. Not so good for discussion, I think, because there's a lot in it. So some keywords that I picked up from that paper is avatars, that users like to relate to characters. All of these are exemplified with references in this report, so I recommend reading this. Also, team play is better than playing just against the computer, and an advantage is that trainers can explore, fail and try over and over again without any real consequences. Storyline, engage more deeply, and it's good if it suits the needs and different levels of ability of the relevant users. And also positive with a performance tracker, such as a progress bar or experience points, a level indicator or thematic level progression visualization. Also in this paper is a good game flow theory. I haven't been able to look where this comes from or if it's made up. There's a reference there, but I didn't have time to read that. But this is the game flow theory, I call it. That optimal engagement is achieved when users enter the flow state.
Question to the class: have we talked about this before or not?
Yeah.
Good. So everyone is comfortable with this? Anyway, okay. So
I've seen it, but is it exactly like this?
that's the same one. That has the skill and challenge dimensions. But you mean
like the 4 squares?
Well, they made it into 6, I think, but that was more advanced.
That was the
because I mean it boils down to this one. If you are in the outermost part, but you said if the competence level is too low, it's not going to be much motivation anyway. So this is kind of the outer part. If you cut it into the left and right kind of diagonally, this is on the right part. This is kind of what you find there. So it's the same. It's just a simplified model or simplified visualization.
I'll go back to the lecture notes then and we'll put that in here. So yeah, and it's like you said, it has to be within. It has to be not too challenging compared to the skill level of the player. Then it's frustrating, and it can't be too easy, and it will be boring. So let's see.
Yeah. So this is from the second paper that we posted on the page. Now this game it primarily mentions, can a serious game be used as a method to analyze effect of information quality on human belief assessment and decision making. So the main reason that they have developed this serious game is to assess effect of information quality on how humans make decision under the context of risk, and what are the effects of that. Primarily, they wanted to understand the reasoning and how these information quality pieces affect, and also how do humans process this heterogeneous information based on what source it is coming from. They have captured data related to reasoning, and we can get into that. So their primary hypothesis is that information quality can be reduced to 3 different basic information quality dimensions, which is uncertainty, imprecision, and falseness. And this game is particularly for maritime surveillance experts, and they are playing the role of officer of the watch. So imagine a scenario wherein there is a watch and there is an officer, and he's keeping track of all the events that are happening in his area of responsibility. So game develops on those grounds. Now the primary task here is to assess a vessel behavior which has lost its track 1 hour ago. So there is a vessel whose track is not known for last 1 hour, and there are 2 different tracks, either belonging to vessel A or vessel B. Now one of them is located in area of responsibility, and other is located in the country of origin of the lost vessel. But players don't know this, and vessel A is the missing vessel, and it should be concluded as threat. Vessel B is actually a fishing vessel outside the area of responsibility, and it is going back to its port. And these are vessels of same type. I'm going into gameplay a bit more because that helps us understand what is the premise of this method to evaluate the effects of information quality. Now in this case, as you can see in the map, this is the map of the place where it is all taking place, and if the track in AR corresponds to lost vessel, the lost vessel has crossed the border without authorization, and it should be considered as potential threat. Now if it's a threat, then the officer should take a decision that we want to send a patrol aircraft to investigate further, and this is the final decision that they have to take. Every game ends at this, whether they want to send a patrol aircraft or not. And if it is the other track, then there is no threat and vessel is still in its area. The players, they are given pieces of information in terms of a small card which has all of this bits and pieces, and at every round they calculate or they take the decision. Now this is the information. Now if you can see on the left hand side of the table, there are different pieces of information: radar, SAR, camera, cargo, and this information is being provided by different providers. So operator, tracker, analyst A, analyst B, captain, and ATR. These information pieces have an effect on either vessel A or vessel B. Some of them have effect on only A or B. Each of them has their own individual expertise, so that the players can relate to the information given by the teller, and also they can assess and analyze whether it is to be trusted or not. And these are the 6 different dimensions this paper considers to evaluate the quality of information. So trueness, falseness, certainty, uncertainty, precision, imprecision, and then conflict, relevance, reliability, and independence. Players are given these cards. This is the front side wherein there is a radar reading, what is the location of the vessel, and which vessel it is, and unique ID. This is the back side. This is shown first to the players, and it has similar options. After each round, they calculate the belief state of the players, whether they want to change their suspect. So for example, it's the first round, first card has been assigned, first card has been understood and explored. They suspect that the vessel A is threat, so it is recorded on this sheet. Again, next round, if they want to switch from A to B based on the information that they have received, it is again recorded on this. At the end, they will make a decision whether to send the aircraft or do not send the aircraft. Belief is something that probability of a particular event based on some mathematical base for it. I'm not sure about the mathematical base because the paper also mentions about that, but I couldn't understand it. Given this game, the paper comes to a conclusion that only concerning the gameplay, 75% people made the right choice, and higher amount of false information actually leads to higher uncertainty before the decision. And information which is given by certain sources with certainty has also high decision. To also look at this gameplay, it is domain independent, so this can be really used to evaluate information quality in other domains by sequentially following the steps that they have listed. If you go into analyzing the paper itself, this clearly states what's the problem, what's the research question, aim, hypothesis, and details of each activity. And they have also included what could be biases and limitations of this study. But if we really think about this game and its implication on the players, there is no such benefit to the players because this is for evaluating the effect of information quality on decision making. There is no relation to analyzing, there is no relation to how players make decisions and what is needs to be done to make it better. So it is for a completely different purpose, and the game is designed to serve to that. Also, in addition to that, there is limited gameplay. You can play it one time, and I don't think there is interest or there is motivation to play it second time. There is, because you already know the results. These 2 points maybe could go hand in hand because there could be different player types involved. Person who has been there as an expert for 20 years as compared to a person who is just started in this field. That way, I say that this balance is not at all mentioned in the game. Benefits, as I said before, there is no real benefit to the player. It is benefit for the researchers who are conducting this research. And though it is helping us to understand the information and what kind of quality should be maintained to make better decisions, but as such there is no direct benefit for the players. There are more examples which are about decision making and serious games. Especially the first one, it considers the social situations which involves risk. For example, there is a fire, there is an accident, maybe an ambulance is going to a place which requires some attention. It also considers what decisions are supposed to be made in this and trains them to cater to these incidents. There are so many examples which are training decision making in different contexts. One of them was in health setting. How can pre-teenagers be made more aware to get vaccination? These are also other examples which I won't go into details.
Now it's the time for the specific paper that we submitted. So it's called Learning Decision Making Through Serious Games. It's kind of simple paper. It's about the creation of a serious game that focuses on acute management of. You can read it. Yeah, thank you. And it's game-based resource to teach clinical decision making to medical students. So it's also education. This is the game interface. It is film video clips that are graphical as a graphical basis, and this allows the realistic representation of symptoms such as labored breathing, and as well as subtleties of expression and communication. It's first-person perspective, and the player is assuming the identity of a junior doctor. So the interface for the game consists of a video clip-based display, as mentioned, and you get a selection of radio buttons. So the user dictates the next actions for the game character. This is, it seems to be intricate in the way it's set up. It's non-linear. It's not that you're just going through 15 slides and you get a score point at the end. It's you will go back and forth through a decision tree. On-screen events responding to the user's decision until the scenario ends.
This also uses storyboards to map out all the scenarios and what scene action is involved in that. For example, the first row here talks about what is the camera position, what is the equipment for the patient, and what is the scene, and what should be the result. They have a scoring system which is about rewarding or reducing the points related to the action of the player, and that helps students to learn what should be the right action based on the situation that they are presented with. The evaluation, so they designed this game, asked 479 students to play. 281 of them accessed the game, and 47 responded to the questionnaire, which asked them about what do you think about the serious game. Do you think this is helpful to make you learn more? Do you think you can make better judgments of the situation and do this all up there? It primarily focuses on the learning that is there with the help of this game, and the feedback that they got is pretty good. Some of the students said that this helped me learn and I want to play more and more until I get the highest score. Also, they can use this, at least based on the reviews and responses to the survey questions, they feel they can use it for helping students learn. Now, considering this, I would like to open this for the discussion, maybe with respect to these topics and the theme of today's lecture.
Good. Sounds good. So your waiting is over. Now it's your opportunity to chip in. All of you have read the paper, of course, and there should be ample opportunity to discuss some of the aspects that you guys outlined. So that's good to give a theme, kind of, to guide the discussion in this setting. So we have some discussion points. Anyone wants to share some observations about the papers? Paper? Una, no, sorry. Okay.
So I think there may be some risks in this serious game, because when students treat like fake patients in the video, maybe when they treat the real person in the real life, they may like playing a game and maybe try a medicine, and then they think they will have another chance to give another medicine.
Yeah, you mean that they might, in the real life, they might interpret the situation differently because they are used to the game?
Maybe they have an institution that the person is fake, although it's not fake.
So you think that when they treat someone in real life, they get the impression that the person is also just an actor, or what did I miss?
Yes, they may have these feelings because they play this game maybe several times, or
So
the
you think
whole
that this
learning.
game will take the emotion away from being a doctor? That you
No.
Maybe less realistic than
Yeah.
what it is supposed to be.
That's how I took. So that's less serious. You suddenly think it's a game, right?
Yeah.
There was some.
Yeah,
more-
you get used to playing it, and then you might subconsciously forget that your actions have consequences in
Yeah.
real life.
It's a good point. It's a good point.
As a counter,
Yeah. Jonas.
sorry.
Yeah. You go first. You can keep track of the people. I'm just helping you a bit, so we don't want to get voices lost. So, but of course, you guide the discussion.
So, as a counter argument, they are doctors, and in the actual program of, I don't know what's the program, but they are actual doctors. When they actually learn in educational setting, they must be used to all the scenarios of imagining how the scenario, how the situation of a particular patient would be, and when they are presented with these instincts of making it less realistic and getting under the influence of a game may not play a role, is what I think, because they are trained to do that unless they actually start practicing in real world. So, yeah. Go ahead.
So two comments. One regarding the disassociation with the gameplay versus actual life, and not that I have any studies to refer to, but in general, manipulation in the practice, and also police and fire training. The best would be for them to actually do a lot of like real life exercises, like looking at a house fire. But that is very, very costly. So what you do is you have a certain portion of your training be of actual large scale exercises. Then you have more specified exercises that focus in a certain area, for instance, to how to operate equipment. And in that case, these kind of things is actually very helpful in focusing on decision making. They remove all other aspects and have you focusing on that specific aspect, which is very good. So that one comment, and the other comment is that you were given a list of things to do. Did I talk anything about how extended that list was? Because you might have some guesswork in what is the optimal solution based on those 15 items you can work with 7 of these stages.
Okay, if you're presented an option, you might remember that is an option, whereas when you're standing in front of your patient, you might forget that option exists.
yeah.
I think it was something about the indicator about the game flow that the players, they just wanted to repeat it at once to get a higher score, and they just want to skip the videos. They would like to have the options to skip the videos,
Yeah.
They were just actually, it seems to me like they were not interested in actually learning something, or just interacting with the patient, just to skip it until you get the next step to get more scores. So this brings more like it's just a game. It's not a real person again. So it's kind of confusing when you blend it with the apply. I'm not mentioning the kind of the strange choice of the subjects. Like if it's like a 10% or those like 280 of 480 that tried the game, and only 47 decided to interact with the questionnaire.
Yeah.
So it looks like, and if it's our students, so probably they are all kind of used to the modern technology or something. So probably it's a bit. It's not probably. It's definitely a bias when interpreting the results on this one. And if we abstract from it and just look at this table, it's almost only good comments. Is it like this 240 that didn't answer and didn't bother to comment the fails with the program, or just ignore it?
It's very suspicious. And, well, you are only collecting good feedback. Also, if you look at the questionnaire, I think that is also not the best one. It's very leading in every question. It's laying up for positive feedback.
Yeah, I also noticed they're kind of suggesting that the students were gaming the system, trying to score. But I think that we don't have the data to say whether that was the fact or not, because it might just be that the students were wanting to explore what the alternative choices would have led to, and now having to watch all those videos and the points where they already were sure, we don't know whether they would like to speed it up just because they wanted to explore, or if they was just to say, okay, now I think what I should have answered and they want to go and verify this. So I mean, since you haven't done the drill down on their reason for wanting to skip, we just know that they want to skip. We don't really know if it's they're just gaming, they're just interested in the points as the author suggests, or it's because they would like to verify for their own sake the decisions where they have been in doubt. They want to rerun them and see whether they have the same results or different results. And then for all the other questions, they don't care because they know what the answer should be and they feel confident there. So without investigating further, I don't think we could say that the students game the system. We don't know, but it could be. But we didn't know for sure what the motivation for doing this was, and what the motivation for wanting to go quickly through the questions where they didn't want to learn more because they already knew what the answer was. For the other ones, whether it was to gain, to get the full score, or it was because they would like to verify if their understanding was correct, or what alternative to go for. So I think it's still an open question whether they were gaming it or not.
I think that's the big flaw with this paper also, is that it's just presenting how they created the game. It's not so much about collecting data to analyze.
Going deep, just on the very surface level, different questions and answers.
I can mention one thing that we haven't said anything about. It's the background for creating the games. They asked what the medical students felt least confident about, and they created a game based on that topic.
Yes, they did a user analysis of the fourth year students, I think they said, but they studied both third and fourth year students. So I was wondering, what if the third year students didn't even have a chance to learn about some of those topics? What are they supposed to do if they don't have any knowledge to base those decisions on?
Good point.
The other thing I found interesting in this one, if you look at the details, I think I said last time that I usually look at the deviation. I think the deviation is an interesting measure here. So now here, if you look at the two questions with the lowest score, they also have the largest deviation, which means that some students really answer low on this. So it's interesting. So it's not that those are definitely not conclusive. So yeah, these are positive. So.
And so, well, when you don't, when you have this little feedback, that you get, when you're not asking everyone, you're just collecting some of the answers. I think you're probably just collecting the best and the worst.
So since we're just looking on the stats things, I agree with you. It's kind of extremely leading, right? Those statements, right? I think that. So what about? I think that educational games for medicine learning are a bad idea, right? So that would be a nice cross-validation statement that probably should be embedded somewhere there or reformulated another way, right? So there's a strong suggestive bias that you have already identified. So that's without doubt. In fact, out of those only questions, there's only one statement which I find interesting, and that's number 4. That's the educational games would be good for revising, consolidating the existing knowledge, because only there you have the combination of, on the one hand, very low standard deviation and very high score, right? You have 4.5, that is next to everyone, right? So, and a 0.8 standard deviation. So everyone was in the 3 to 5 range effectively. But it also says the learning impact is really moderate. Like number 3, educational games would be good for learning new facts and concepts. So they didn't learn much from it. They just entrenched existing knowledge, right? So if you want to engage there and not to learn something as an educational tool, that's it seems to be more than questionable.
I think this game was just a more fun way, or more entertaining way for them to repeat knowledge.
Right. Yeah. So I think that's how the students took it as well.
Yeah.
So, but Jonna,
I think that if you look at serious games as a tool to play out a scenario, you can play out that as many times as you want, but to really learn from it, you should have an environment outside of the serious games to actually start discussing it, to actually look at it at a larger picture, so that you can actually, for instance, stop the serious game and stop the scenario, and then have a sort of a discussion on what is actually happening now. Then you probably will have a higher learning in it, instead of just playing the serious game.
That's a very good point. Please, I think. Yeah.
That's often what I do in medical or nurse education. They do the abstraction review. They go through and say, okay, what did we do here? Why did we do that? What was the consequences? Because that's hard to do individually.
And the other thing with health education is like they start by reading a textbook, and you're making steps up that, like you're working with dummies, then you're working like on your classmates, then you're going on your rotation where you're supervised by others, then you're getting all of the feedback. So it's not like you're throwing second year students like into a job. You don't have those expectations. So I think, it's a fun way. It could be a fun way to study, like Emma said, but it's another tool that gets a little more realistic.
It's a useful tool for the mix. You can, you can't base the entire educational system on unification.
Also, interesting thing is that they mentioned that there are many limitations to our study, and they acknowledge the fact that we didn't collect any data of people who played the game but did not answer the survey. So that's a good thing that they are not going with the assumption that since respondents said that this is good, so we say this is good. So
that's a good point. One thing they are making a bit of a fuss about in this paper is the use as formative assessments, right? The use of this mechanism as a formative assessment. And that is a bit of I think it's a non-problem that they have discovered, and that links back to the learning aspect on the one hand. On the other hand, they're really worried about the anonymity aspects and the identifiability of individuals, but if they were, and they mildly allude to it, but I'm not sure if they're really clear about this, if they had conceived this from the get-go as a way of identifying on aggregate level where students show weaknesses or not, then it's a very good assessment tool, right? Because me as a formative, just to put it in perspective, when I think about formative assessment as a teacher, it's often more about assessing the class as a whole as opposed to individuals. Because I will have a summative assessment, the assessment at the end, you know, exam, oral exam, reports and so on, of you individually anyway, right? So that's where you get your hard mark. But the formative one says me, where do we sit? Where did I get wrong? What, you know, what didn't we talk about in serious game or whatever else, right? So, and I think this would be a very easy one to solve and a nice tool to exploit this. And I think that's a missed opportunity apart from the ones you mentioned that didn't ask the people that didn't complete. That's also a missed one. But this was an easy catch, I felt, they could have just gotten to make something really meaningful out of this. And just to extend on the formative assessment thing, it would be very easy, and that's coming back to your point. What about in an evaluative setting, they would have just injected unexpected side effects, right? So if you treat a patient that suddenly has a coexisting or pre-existing medical condition, right? So that you learn about, but you may not immediately relate, then suddenly you need to activate your prior knowledge, contextual knowledge, sensitivities, and so on. And then you bring in the risk aspect, that is, you know, so you don't have this predictability, 100% right or wrong, or, you know, 80%, but actually you have a certain risk component that with a certain probability, the patient may go and get a heart attack or whatever else. I don't know, right? So I'm not from that field. But you could imagine that suddenly you actually test the student's performance meaningfully in a simulated context. So it would be, again, very easy, I feel, to extend the simulator into something that could either be made for actually teaching content, right, as opposed to just saying it reinforces content, because it's a new situation you will hopefully never experience in real life, right? But most certainly not otherwise experienced in a training setting, right? So having really critical situations. And then you can actually shape this tool. So I think they're on the right way, but they missed out a lot of opportunities along that pathway. That's just one thing about this. The comments about how they could have made a good formative assessment tool out of this. Yeah. But anyway, someone else want to say something?
Yeah, I think what I was saying about the students wanted to play the game and skip past the points where they were not so interested. I think that is kind of could be an indication that it actually worked as an individually formative assessment tool. Because I mean,
right.
You want self-assessment,
yes.
So you want to know where do you need
Good
to practice
point.
more.
Good point.
And those points, well, you have to go through the whole game to go through and practice. So it could be an indication that those who worked as an individual formative assessment tool.
That's the flip side of the medal. Why bother about the teacher, right? Can't the student just get feedback from the tool and then assess themselves basically and become better? Why does the teacher need to know, right? Anonymity and all that.
Why was my conclusion wrong?
So
But if I answer something else, what would happen? That's
exactly, yeah.
So, well, I think there's a big risk in that thing, that you this game creating false confidence. That
Good point.
you get full start in the game, and you
Get full
know the videos by heart, and you come into a situation where you, in real life, and he's having this condition, and
that's what you said, right? So exactly that you get kind of confuse real life and game, and you're right. I mean, that's obviously a risk, right? So you can see it.
They are actors. It's not real situations.
Oh, I was just referring to mostly the same, that it's in a real life treatment, it would be dangerous to say that the taking shortcuts for the most boring parts of the treatment is good.
Yeah.
So
no, but the thing here is that this they played repeatedly.
yes,
because they didn't get it right the first time. So
Yeah.
something they missed, I would like to understand why they missed it. So I don't think they played with patients that way. I think that hopefully that is different.
So, yeah. Final question: what would be missing to give tangible outcome out of this paper? What's missing to get any meaningful assessment or say something qualitatively? Yep, serious games help. Think you want to? Be honest? No.
From my point of view, I think this paper really focuses on decision making, and since the industry or domain is medical setting, they could have really focused on what type of decisions do we want to encourage in students and what kind of approach they should take. So they could have been more there could have been more emphasis on that. And another thing is, since it's a serious game, it could have been more about which player types and what kind of framework, if not explicitly, but at least implicitly, that this is what we would like to do and this is what we are sticking to. There is very little of gameplay. It's very simple points. So for some of them it might be motivating, for some of them it may not, but it could have been in slightly more depth than what it is right now.
So you're going down the route of game design, could be improved, sure, I agree, but still, what's missing to tell me, or convince me that it's actually a superior way of using serious games? Johannes, an idea?
There was no control group in the study.
Yeah.
Right? How do you know? I mean, it's a best guess, right? At best, right? So it was very simple. It's minor design, well, considerable design flaw, but a simple one. That could then you don't need any of that, right? So the whole anecdotal evidence and the Likert type scale, the biases and so on, you would just see it, right, in the actual assessment, for example, right? So it would be nice build up for that purpose. So it's very important to see, to not read all the feedback at face value, which you didn't. It's good. But to see how can we substantiate any hypothesis that underlies it, you know, so, along the lines of using the serious, concept of serious games for educational purposes in health settings improves decision-making performance. Well, we can't, you know, falsify it or confirm it. There's no way we can do it.
But another thing you could do to make it interesting and relevant, especially for the teachers of those teaching domain, would be to if you go to Bloom's taxonomy, I mean, we said evaluate, and evaluate was trying to say why did you conclude this way. So if you with 47, if you interview, if you do as you go through and try to have them explain why they concluded, then you can see what are the misunderstandings, what are the typical misjudgments, misunderstandings, and then you can enforce that into the teaching later on. So we can learn more about why students are making it wrong, which are the most likely ones for making the wrong decision, and why. What did they not see? What did they not take into account? What is their misjudgment? And that will help us understand, or the lecturers in the domain, understand what will be typical problems, and it will help the students to focus more on that. So I think we could learn more, but then you have to go much deeper. You need to go the qualitative way. You could also go as Chris was saying, in the quantitative way, and then you need to compare to another group. But if you go more qualitatively into it and try to understand why are students failing this one? Why is the hard? I mean, if you find that there's one question, most of them fail in one question, then you try to understand why did they fail there? What did they not take into account? Or what was the basis for the decision? You need to go much deeper along that path as well.
Sure. Definitely. Any more thoughts, questions, worries?
One short final thought. I think
Yeah.
we only have this paper is very easy to read and follow, and quite simple to understand what they have written. I think you will have everything totally on.
I have a slightly different opinion that the layout of the actual paper, like purely from an information visualization perspective, was really hard to read.
Okay. I focused on the language part.
Yeah. Yes, it was.
Yeah.
It was more, I would say, simple to understand.
Yes.
But the layout there was. It read like a news article, and when you're reading it on a computer, it was actually really hard because some of the columns would then be back up at the top.
Yes.
So instead of having like a 2-column page, which is a little more standard to read through, I had to scroll up and down a lot. The figures switch sides, and there's colors all over the place, which just made things weird on the screen.
That's weird. Interesting. Okay.
2 columns per
Real
page would have been
example
enough.
of this game.
Yeah. Well,
That is pretty. At some places it's really twisted to understand what actually they are trying to say. But at other places they are pretty much clear, and they have repeated few things to make it better. So.
nice. Well, it's one different kind of example of a paper, right? What mark would you give them for their work? As a class? No pressure.
A2F,
Sorry?
A2F, or
Yeah, sure.
100.3.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean, but A2F, well, ballpark. I mean, I don't think they will be entirely impressed with whatever mark we give them. But where do you think that would sit?
For the article or for that?
Tough one. Let's go article.
Okay.
Because you're right, you need to differentiate actually. Okay, and the research? Okay, he's going for D, okay. You
In
can
scientific methodology or in
yeah. Okay, that's an interesting. So next exercise for this class, come up with a marking scheme for all the possible future marking rubric for all the potential future games. That could be an interesting exercise.
conversion data?
But okay, and then design, search methods, design. Well, yeah, probably, yeah. I mean, yeah, it'll be tough. I mean,
They collected data.
they collected
I
data.
think they have
And
identified
analyzed it in
weaknesses.
some
So
way.
it's
Yes,
It's
exactly. So Runa's point is good. I mean, there are some significant issues there, right? So he missed out on a lot of opportunities for making it better, asking questions to people who haven't played the game and so on. Minor tweaks would have improved the game, the biases. So yeah, it's probably more on the end of the scale, I guess. But, anyway. All right, who's next for next week? Ah, you are due. Okay, cool, sweet. All right. Well, in any case, thank you very much for preparing this. So you gathered a lot of, flower bunch of different theories, which you want to contextualize. Please, would be good if you could put just the citations on the sources under the figures. That would be really good. Another comment, just slide numbers. It makes it easier for us to reference back. You say, on slide 15 I didn't get this or something, right? So it would be quite helpful. Other than that, thank you very much for your effort. So quite some effort going into this, preparing it, and thanks for the presentation.